Okay guys, so today I'm going to talk about the rotating assembly on these engines. I'd planned on doing this video and the comparison video with the aftermarket Pistons at the same time, but the comparison got too long and I needed to split this video in half, so this is probably going to be a pretty short one. But before I talk about that, I wanted to talk about the 3-liter V6s. If you guys have the Supercharged V6, that's the AJ133, that they started putting in things instead of the naturally aspirated engine after 2013, or I think they started putting them in the Jag sooner than that. If you guys have those engines, those are basically the same engine. What they did is, instead of developing an engine from scratch for their base models, they went and took the block of the 5-liter V8 and they basically didn't bore out cylinders 7 and 8 on it, and then they redesigned the heads so that they were V6 heads, and the same with the crank, and slapped it on this engine so they could build a V6 engine out of the V8 block. That saves them a lot of there's a lot of parts commonality. The timing system is identical. All of the oil system is all the same, so it saves them having to reproduce all kinds of new parts for a new engine. It saves them the money having to develop from scratch a new engine. It saved them a lot of money not having to crash test new vehicles. So it's kind of a wonky thing to look at, but it really saved Jag Rover a lot of money when they did that. So if you guys are working on a 3-liter V6 supercharged, it's not going to be the same, especially this video. The piston diameter is different, the stroke is different, and the crankshaft is obviously quite a bit different. It has like a counter-rotating balancer beneath where cylinders 7 and 8 were to keep everything balanced right. But if you're competent enough working on engines that you're looking at your engine and then you're following my videos here where I'm doing the rebuild on the 5-liter, you're probably going to be able to look at what I'm doing, look at what's in front of you, and then be able to carry it over to make it work for your engine. There's really not a whole lot, substantively, there's not a whole lot different. There's a lot of stuff superficially different. There are a lot of dimensions that are going to be different, but you'll be able to figure it out. And that is the AJ133 supercharged 3-liter engine. There are two 3-liter V6 AJ-derived engines in the Jags. If you have a 3-liter AJ V6 that was made from like the early 2000s up until about 2008, they put them in a lot of Jags and like the Lincoln LS, and I'm sure Ford used them in some other vehicles. The Thunderbird, I think. That's not the same engine at all. If that's what you have, this isn't going to help you at all. But the 2014 and newer 3-liter supercharged V6 that was in pretty much everything JLR made from 2014 up until just a couple years ago, this is going to be pretty much all the same for you. So I am slowly making my way home because we got quite a bit of snow last night, and when I get over to the shop I'll go ahead and switch over here and start talking about this stuff. So the crankshafts on these, for a long time I thought they were forged crankshafts. They're actually spheroidal graphite cast crankshafts. And in my brain, I think forged is stronger than cast, just because that's the way that I've always thought about it. But with that said, there are a lot of people that, if you go to some YouTube channels, there are people that are building what they claim are 1,000 horsepower engines on these V8s with the factory cranks. So realistically, there's probably nobody that needs to go to a forged crankshaft from these. The factory crankshafts are just fine. Now, I did talk to Christian at Euroamp at one point, and when I was just kind of getting ready to start this build, I asked him about all of the internal parts that I was looking at. He said that all of them that they have listed on the website are cast crankshafts, but they do have an off-catalog forged crankshaft that they can get for you. I don't remember what the price was. I'll look at the email from him and throw it up on here for you. So if you guys are dead set on having forged internals, you can get a forged aftermarket crankshaft, but you can probably find a good crankshaft out of an engine from somebody like Roverland Parts or Overland Imports or somebody like that. You could probably find a genuine crankshaft pretty cheap for these. because usually that's not a failure. Usually when you find one of these in a junkyard, it's because of timing chains. So if that's what you guys are looking for, you can get them, but I don't think, especially if you're building back to stock specs like I am, I don't think that's worth the money. Connecting rod and main bearings you can't get from the factory. All of mine came from Euroamp. I actually have two sets. I have a standard set and an oversized set, because on the video that I showed you guys on the crank, you might be able to see the connecting rod journal for cylinders. Let me think. I think it's cylinders 3 and 7 has a spot where it got metal in it. It's actually proud of it. It's not like it's ground into it, so I think they're going to be able to polish it out, but I have both sets of bearings to send with it in case they do need to grind it down. There are a lot of aftermarket Chinese sets of crankshaft bearings, con rods, and main bearings. I don't have any reason to believe any of them are better than others. I did a video where I already checked the thickness of these, and the ones from Euroamp, I was really impressed with how consistent they were. I would not have any hesitation to use those. They also have some like tri-metal. It seems like Euroamp is carrying a lot of different types of bearings. If you're building a performance engine, you have different options there. I just went with the bimetal ones that were, I think they're about $120 a set. And there's no reason I need something better than that for this, but if that's something that you guys want to spend the money on, they have good options, and I've had people tell me that they've had good results with them, so those are options for you guys. Otherwise, there's not really anything special about these crankshafts. They're just a split journal V8 crankshaft. It's going to look like any other V8 crankshaft if you aren't taking measurements on it. So I'll move on to the connecting rods. To my knowledge, these are forged from the factory. To my knowledge, there's nobody else that is producing a forged crank or a forged connecting rod for these. So if that's what you want, either make use of the ones that came out of your engine, or you can probably find good ones pretty easily from, again, Roverland Parts and Overland Imports are who I usually use in Florida and Kentucky. I've had good results with everything I've gotten from them. They have good service, and Andrew's maybe 4 hours from me. I've had him send me stuff at like 5 p.m. that's been on my doorstep the next morning. So they're really good at shipping stuff quick, and they've always got good parts and take care of you if there's anything wrong with it. All of the aftermarket ones that I've found are cast. I don't think any of the piston companies offer these. I didn't look too closely on Velocity AP. They might have, I would imagine if anybody has an aftermarket forged connecting rod, they do. But when I searched for it stuff, I couldn't find any. So there isn't a whole lot special about these. I'll throw up the spec that I took off of these for the small end and the big end. Just so you know, these are fracture split big ends, so which you shouldn't be trying to mix this stuff anyway, but there's no chance you're going to be able to grind and match your big ends unless you're starting completely from scratch, and at that point you can buy used ones that are in better shape a lot easier, so just do that. Connecting rod bolts. I think at one point I said that these were torque to yield bolts, and that's not right. I was thinking of the 4.6 Rover. They aren't torque to yield. I'll throw the spec up here. I found it in, I think, the Jag XF manual or XJ, one or the other. So we do have torque specs for these. They're not torque to yield. And they are also the same bolts that were used on the second gen AJs. So the 4.2 liter, the 4.4 liter that you would find on the LR3, the earlier 06 to 09 Range Rovers and Range Rover Sports. So we can get these. I think they're like $14 from Atlantic British. You might be able to find them cheaper in the UK and get them shipped if you're not in a hurry for them. But I'll throw that part number up on here, and you guys can chase those down if you're wanting them. Otherwise, there's not really anything special about these. Actually, there is. If you guys are wanting to check bolt stretch, you see here on the factory ones, the top is exposed on that one, but not this one. If you're wanting to check bolt stretch, some of the Chinese ones that you buy, this is not, this is a blind hole. You can't see the top of this. I think that has been fixed on most of the new ones, but just so you know, if that's something that you want to check when you put these together, make sure you check the pictures or you email them before you order them and ask to make sure that's exposed. Which again, these aren't torque to yield bolts, so I didn't check what my stretch was on these bolts, but if that's something you want to check, you can do that on most of them, but not all of them. wrist pins are simple. Mine, none of them really had much wear on them or anything like that, but if I'm going to new pistons, they're going to come with them anyway. All of the dimensions on my used ones were identical to the ones on the new ones. They do use a circlip, which these things, the factory ones are a pain to get in there. I would say that there's not much of a chance that you're going to get these things replaced without losing at least one of these. So if this is something that you're wanting to knock out all at one time in a weekend, I would order some extras of these if you're having to take this stuff apart, because I've got one that is about 200 yards that direction somewhere that I heard pinging in that direction when I was taking one of these or putting it back together. So they're not all going to stay where you want them, or work in a big plastic bag if you are not wanting to spend the extra $2 on these clips. And then onto the pistons. The pistons are, the factory pistons on these are forged. Pretty sure it's Kolbenschmidt that provided these. It doesn't have any Ford markings on it. I'm pretty sure these came from somewhere else. On the inside, I have not figured out what any of the casting marks mean. I would assume they're all something to do with the blanks that they use when they forge the casting marks, the forging marks. I would assume they're all to do with the blanks that they use to produce these. These are the low compression pistons. I have 1295 printed on one side, 092 over 180 over B2 on that side, and then in the ends here I have 15 and 13 marked. So I'll try to set this here where you can maybe see that. There's a lot of stuff in there that I didn't get cleaned up very well, so you probably can't see it real well, but you can see at least where I'm talking about. These pistons measured okay. They're in spec, but I mean, you can see here, there's quite a bit of wear on them. They had about, what, 0.01 millimeter more clearance between them and the cylinder wall than the aftermarket pistons do. So that's kind of why I'm looking at putting new pistons in it, because I've got extra. I budgeted about $2 grand for this rebuild, and with everything done so far, I'm only about 1,500 into it. So I can either pocket the extra 500, or I can move on to the next thing on my list that I would do if I wanted to, and the pistons are definitely the next thing that I would replace on this engine. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. I think I can get all of that done for under $500, even if I have to have the bores honed or something, or have the bores, I don't know if they'd hone them or what. It's not going to be much of a machine job if they do anything on them at all. I've got like 0.035 millimeters of clearance, and that's a little under what the spec is, but I don't know. It's only by a little bit, so we'll see what the machine shop says. Otherwise, I'm going to talk in the other video about it, but if you see, these are symmetrical on the skirts on both sides. If you have a supercharged engine and you're ordering aftermarket pistons, a lot of the Chinese cast pistons, they should have a cutout here. That's where the oiler jets go. If you're ordering one of the Chinese pistons, and I've got one here that I ordered that doesn't have the cutout in it. If you're ordering one of the Chinese pistons, I would make sure that you're ordering them from somewhere that has that cutout. The Euro amp pistons do have that in the picture. So I'm assuming that they do, because they're usually pretty good about listing things correctly that they have. But if you're ordering aftermarket supercharged pistons, make sure you check with them and make sure that they match that. I'm going to talk about the pistons a lot more in the video that I did yesterday, and I'm kind of splitting that video into this one and the other one because it was getting too long. So I'll go into more detail on those aftermarket cast pistons, but if you're replacing these pistons, your options are either going to be going with the Chinese pistons. Just the long story short on those, there is a lot of difference that I found between the ones from Euro Amp and from a lot of the other ones. If I am buying pistons, they're going to come from Euro Amp after looking at them, because they had a lot better machining, a lot better finish. They were packaged a lot better. Overall, they just looked a lot better than the ones that I got from Amazon and eBay. I kind of expected those all to be the same, but they weren't. So if you guys are ordering cheaper pistons, I would get them from there. All of them that you're going to find in that price range are going to be cast pistons. To my knowledge, there's nobody there's nobody that you can buy billet pistons from that are stocked on the shelf. If you want to have custom pistons made from bar stock, you can go take the information to somebody. I'm sure they'll make them for you. If you want forged pistons, our options are Velocity AP. They have somebody that is building a forged piston for them. I think it's from scratch. I don't think it's like they're buying blanks from Molly or somebody like that and manufacturing them. Molly is the other one. They're using a Subaru blank forging that they're remachining and making work for the 5.0s. And then Kolbenschmidt, who I'm pretty sure was the OE supplier for these, which those are pretty expensive. If you're looking at those, then sorry, I got cut off there. But you know, the Kolbenschmidt piston, I mean, to spend $2,000 on pistons, if you're building a track car or something like that, then have at it. If you guys are like me though, I'm trying to do this on somewhat of a budget, because this is a truck that is going to be worth $5,000 to $8,000 when it's done. It would be really easy for me to spend more than $8,000 rebuilding this engine. So I know it seems like I'm trying to cut corners and using cheaper parts on this, but the truth is, either I'm going to be able to rebuild this truck using cheaper parts, or this truck's not going to be worth being rebuilt. So the whole reason that I'm doing this video series is because I really do feel like these are going to be the next generation of like Disco 2s for those of us that, you know, they got super cheap because everybody had mechanical problems with them and they just kind of threw them away. And then we started buying them and figuring out what we could fix. And it was real easy there for a while to buy a cheap Disco 2 for $500. You spend $500 to $1,000 fixing stuff, and then you had a truck that was really pretty reliable and easy to use. I think that's going to be the case with these. I don't think they're going to be that cheap, but you know, if you can buy one of these things with engine problems for $3,000 to $5,000 and then spend $2,000 rebuilding the engine, you're going to have a lot of truck. You're going to get a lot of value for the money that you put into it. And that's kind of the way that I've always felt about these trucks, is that they are really underappreciated for what they're capable of. Whether it's off-road, whether it's comfort, whether it's towing, they're just good all-around trucks when they're working. And as long as we can make them keep working and make them more reliable, there's a great value to these vehicles. So that's kind of the whole idea that I might not really have laid out real well in the first couple videos when I started doing this, is that it's not that I'm trying to cut corners, it's that the options are pretty slim on this truck. Either I'm going to be able to build it cheap, or it's going to be a worthless truck. It's going to get parted out and scrapped. And I don't want to do that because I know the rest of the truck is good. I know that I have very little rust. I've already put all of the work into all the other stuff on it. I could strip a lot of this stuff off and either throw it on my LR3 or go buy a different LR4 for $6,000 or $7,000. That would be exactly what I want, but why do that when I can go ahead and get this one going, you know? So that's kind of it for the rotating assembly. I'm just going to do this as kind of a side video. And it's almost Christmas, and it's like 18 Fahrenheit today, and it's going to be below 0 in the next couple days. So I would say there's a slim chance of me getting much else done on this truck before the first of the year, especially because I'm waiting for tappets for the heads to come from the UK, and I'm waiting on the studs to be built out. Both of those I kind of expect the first or second week of January. So I might do a couple more little side videos kind of like this, or I've got some piddly stuff I need to do on the LR3. If any of that's interesting, I might throw it up on here. Otherwise, it's probably going to be a little slim for the next few weeks, and then when I've got some parts and I can dive back into the engine, then I'll post some more videos up with more information. Which means I've got downtime. Again, if there's anything that you guys want to see, or anything that you guys have questions about or want me to do a video on, send me a message or something, and I'll try to get some information together for you guys, because it's going to be kind of a boring couple weeks for me. So sorry guys, I just realized I skipped over the piston rings. I'm sure the factory piston rings came from Kolbenschmidt. Everybody that I talked to told me to use the Hastings piston rings. That's what all the guys that build these do. I didn't use them. I got them from Euroamp because I couldn't get the right part number, and then when I did, the only ones that were in stock were in the Netherlands or Romania or somewhere like that. And then I ordered these, and then like 2 days later they came in stock. So I probably should have ordered those, but I didn't. But everybody that I talked to said they use the Hastings and that they never need to gap them or anything. They said when they throw them in here, the gap is just right. So if you're building one of these, I would recommend putting the Hastings in. I'm probably going to use the Euro amp rings because that's what will come on my new Pistons. And again, I'm trying to save some money on some stuff, so I'll see how it works out. Maybe in 5,000 miles or so, I'm going to be doing another one of these videos of why you should use the Hastings rings and not the Euro amp ones. But I know a lot of people have also used these that aren't necessarily builders, and they've not had problems. One guy that I talked to said he was about 60,000 miles on all of the stock stuff from Euro amp, so I'm not too worried about it, but realistically, the Hastings are going to be better than these. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you, guys.